Welcome back once again, all you Warhammers and Warhammies, to the quickest episode of Big M's Mega Minute to date. This being, of course, the very first Mega Minute. I've had a couple of these set up, but uh, by the time it's actually come to record them, I really haven't felt the need to actually go through and publish it. So, essentially, what this is kind of an addendum to the episode. Really, if there's something that kind of medium big comes out between episodes, like in this situation where we have uh, the the recent Votan changes. Um, Instead of having a mic up and everything, or instead of having a picture up, I figure I'll just play a little Vermintide 2 while I kind of go through my thoughts here. Um, I've gotten everything. I actually tested this time, so everything should be published properly. So that will be nice compared to the alternative. So as far as that goes, since we recorded the episode, essentially what happened was we had our, um, we had the Votan come out, and they immediately put out a fix for them, a patch. Now, essentially, what that patch was, if you haven't been through, if you've been on the internet since then, essentially they made it so previously for the grudge tokens, those allow you to roll a number, 6 for 1 token, 5 for 2 tokens, 4 for 3 tokens, whenever you roll to hit. And if you roll one of those numbers, you automatically wounded. Um, that's still the case, but previously what would happen was it would also count as a 6 to wound, which is very strong. And was probably a little strong for what it should have been. Probably should have put a little more thought into that. I'm going to turn down the volume on my side just because it's should be fine on your side, but a little distracting. Um, there we go. So, again, like I said, that was something that I felt was kind of strong whenever they first came out with it. But at the same time, I was like, well, I'm sure they've figured something out. And again, they talked a lot about, well, not they, but a lot of the bat reps I was watching. It was basically showing you just pulling Votan models off one after the other. Um, and so I kind of felt that meant that they had looked into things a little bit more than just what they ended up doing. So, with that being said, it's not a surprise that they came out with changes. The real surprise is how poorly they looked at the changes they came out with. So the first change they did was they made it so you no longer count as a 6. Okay, I mean that sounds like that shouldn't be too big of a problem. I mean, the it just kind of prevents some abilities from going off and being a little too strong. The real issue that whenever you break beyond just the basics is the simple fact that now you have a bunch of abilities that essentially can't go off. Uh, I, I don't know exactly. I don't know exactly what the change would have been, like what the best case scenario would be. Um, I think having abilities go off on a wound roll of 6 was already really difficult. I think it would have been smarter if they would have just wrote the book in the first place with abilities going off on a hit roll of 6. That way, it's not an all the time sort of thing. Um, I, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there should have been some sort of thought put into place about that. But I mean, the issue the issue now is, oh, and by the way, like, I'm not really good at this game. I just enjoy playing it. So if anyone is pro at this and sees this, yeah, it is what it is. So with that being said, like, it's like, okay, well, now you kind of worked yourself into a corner where it doesn't necessarily make sense to leave it that way, but at the same time, it's like, how do you kind of dig yourself out of a hole? And so again, first pass, 6 to hit, but the problem is now, like, so you have the main gun is the Magna Rail, and or the main gun that's the problem, I should say, is the Magna Rail. And I don't know what they were thinking when they came up with it. Like, even if you take all the other items off the table, even if you take everything off the table, like, let's take off the grudge tokens, let's take off the grudge tokens, take out all of that stuff. The Magna Rail itself is already ridiculous, because essentially what it does is it is I think it's strength 9 or 10, AP 4, and AP 4, and then it's D3 plus 3 damage. And then if you roll a 6 to wound, what you do is you do mortal wounds instead of regular damage. And then on top of that, you also now spill over, because again, for my AOS people, in 40k it's 1 hit 1 kill. So if you hit someone with a las gun, you know, real big cannon that does a bunch of damage, it just hit it, like, you could do 100 damage to a single Imperial Guard, and it's only going to kill one Imperial Guard, because it's one shot, one kill. And so having a weapon that actually ignores that is ridiculous. Again, any one of these things by itself is a full ability and a full weapon. So why they decided to put all of them in one is beyond me. It doesn't make any sense. So, like, I personally, like, in order to fix it based on where we are now, because it's all Magna weapons, or all rail guns are like that, because so it's basically the Hearthkin get one like that, which are the it's essentially your in 40k it's troops, in if for Age of Sigmar purposes, it's essentially your battle line. So sorry, healing up a little bit. Anyways, basically, like, any one of those abilities would have been people already saying it's a little overpowered. So why they decide to put all of those on one, I don't understand. It just doesn't make sense. Already being D3 damage plus 3 is already a lot. So as far as that goes, I mean, honestly, I feel like your better bet would have been to change the weapon as opposed to changing how the entire army works, because now there's a there's a league, which is kind of like the sub armies, that their whole thing is basically hitting or rolling a 6 to wound. And whenever you do that, you get you increase the AP or rend of your weapon by 1, and there's something else that happens. I don't know. I'm not interested in that league to begin with, so it's not a huge loss to me personally. But at the same time, you don't want to see, hey, here's a brand new book, let's already get rid of a fifth of it. It just doesn't make sense. But so instead of doing that, I definitely would have done. I definitely would have just changed the. I definitely would have just changed the Magna Rail to basically probably just do D3 plus 1, D3 plus 1 damage, and then if you roll a 6 to wound, then it spills over. There, move on. Like, to have it also do mortal wounds is nuts. That's and I'll fully admit to that. The I think that's the easy way to go about it. And then as far as the other aspect of things was point changes. And like, here's some of the issues. It's like there was good and bad in the army already. So like, there's a unit that's the heavy weapon unit that we were talking about. I believe it was the Thunderkin. And essentially they're just the heavy weapons team, except for their heavy weapons suck. So you already have the heavy weapons that stink, and then you have the points are already too high, and then they raise the points on them on top of that. I mean, you have the and again, most of it's so ridiculous. So you have the Hearthkin. So the troops, the battle line, they raised them by 1 point. Ooh, a whole point. That's really gonna, now the game's balanced because you changed it by a point. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any difference. It doesn't change any lists. Or if it does, then it's like stupid as hell. Like, what's the point of changing? Like, if it was so broken by 1 point, you have more than just that going on with your book. So once you get past that, the other thing is, like, you have your big tank, which went up 70 points, which is insanity. Like, it definitely could have gone up. I'm not debating that. I'm not saying that that's the right or wrong choice, but it definitely, like, the kit's not even out yet. I mean, we don't have any other options. Like, that's, if you're going to take a tank to do some heavy damage, that's the kit you have to take. There's no options, there's no choices. So if you say it's 300 points, well, okay, our only tank is now going to cost 300 points. So again, it's such an overcorrection, and just so quickly. And then, like, you have our the only transport in the army so far is the Sagittor. That went up in points. That was already a little high for the points, just because the simple fact is it goes down quicker than a Rhino. So it's kind of somewhere between, like, a Rhino and a what is it called? A Razorback. That's the one with the cannon on it. It's kind of somewhere between there. So it's kind of somewhere between there, and So now it does less damage, and it also goes down faster, and it also costs more. And it also transports less. So why they felt the need to increase the points on that one, I don't understand. It doesn't. It seems like they were just trying to make changes to quell the internet mob instead of coming up with something that was, you know, well thought out or had a reason for it. Yeah, they dropped that tome, those bastards. Um, ooh, ooh. Uh, sorry, guys. A little distracted. But yeah, so as far as that goes, there's so many other things they could have done to try and bring balance to it other than just point increases. Like, that's one of the things I've been saying since I started the channel, and even prior to the channel, was you can't just fix everything with a point change. If if things are so bad that you need to do point changes this quickly, there's some issues with the rules. And like I said, I mean, as far as that goes, uh, the issues that I have are simply that. So beyond the kind of the issues at large is a simple fact that, like, now there's all this stuff that's not going to see play. Like, you'll probably still see the railgun, and it's just not going to be. It's not going to do what it's supposed to do. It's not going to play the way it's supposed to play. It's not going to fulfill the role it's supposed to fulfill. And you're just going to take. People are just going to take them because they see the damage and go, "Ooh, that's cool." As opposed to, like, kind of what it was supposed to be. So even beyond that, so let's get beyond the let's get beyond Votann itself here, because the changes were pretty simple. And again, you've here real quick, another quick change is, if you want to go that route, then let the player still roll the damage to see if they get a 6, or every 2 count as a 6. I don't know, you got to do something. Like, you can't just completely shut down, can't just shut everything down like they did there. It's just not fun. I mean, you're supposed, like, they give us a bunch of toys, why not, if they're gonna give us all these toys, why not let us play with them? But it kind of goes to the next point. So, and kind of what pushed me over the edge to make this episode here is I watched an episode of Guerrilla Gaming with Ash, who he's been around since the beginning. He's man who read books. He's super awesome. I really like him a lot. And he came out with a video talking about how pointless balance was, and to just write rules however you want. And I was a little shocked to hear him say something like that, because you can't go that far. Like, that is so far the other direction. That's just as bad as everything needs to be perfectly balanced, which is, not to get into a really big discussion, but that's what essentially ruined 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons. And at the very least, if you don't want to go that far, you can at least say it's certainly what prevented it from catching on, was the simple fact that everyone does 12 damage at level 4, everything does 20 damage at level 5, whatever. That's too regimented. At that point, we are just talking about chess. But there's things that have internal balance. You have, if something hits really strong, then it should have low defense, or it should be slow, or basically anytime there's a pro to something, it needs to have a equal and opposite con. Um, and there's a lot of things coming out for both 40K and um, there's both 40K and Age of Sigmar that doesn't have that, and it just feels awful. Um, and so, like, you have to have a balance. Like, essentially, to me, your ideal balance is anything should be able to beat anything else uh, in your game. There shouldn't be any hard losses. Uh, Now, what's interesting is right after they put out this article about the Votann changes, uh, they also put out the 40K article about balance, um, which I thought was hilarious because you're talking about how they're like, oh, well, we really view all these, um, review all this data, we view all of these, all the tournament findings and everything, and then we make changes based off of that. Um, and so it's like, on one side you have them saying, "Oh yeah, we absolutely look at these things, and um, we look at these things, and then on top of that, we also we heard a lot of people were really upset about this, so we're going to go ahead and change it now without any data of any kind other than Tabletop Simulator, which we don't like to acknowledge." Uh, so again, they gotta make up their minds on that one. Also, the article about how they determined the article they released about the Votann was also talking about how they only play tested them against Eldar and Tyranids, where you're like, okay, well, why? Why would you think that that is appropriate? Why would you think that that is okay and normal? Like, that doesn't even. That's like, again, like I've said 1,000 times on this channel, you're a multi-million-dollar company. You can't just put stuff out and then expect to keep making multi-million-dollars. It's eventually going to catch up with you one way or the other. Now, again, with Ash's story, he was talking about War Machine, and he was saying how that he was saying that because they were so competitive focused, that they went out because they didn't that they ignored the rest of the hobby. And again, the issue with that is, yes, you cannot be 100% competitive focused, but at the same time, you also have to remember that there's more than one phase of the game. There's more than just narrative. There's more than just competitive, and I also think that there's more to what happened to Privateer Press than there's more than what happened was just people focusing on competitive too much. That rule set really caused a lot of issues. You're talking about a game where the main focus of the game is giant robots, and no one's taking giant robots. That to me shows a real issue with your core mechanics, and I think that's the real issue with what happened to them. But yeah, it's just you can't focus on one without the other. And like, I think that balance above all else is almost a little bit more important in narrative. Um, and the main reason for that is because I think, here on Big M's Power Hour, we detest the saying "rule of cool," simply because you're going to have someone that's going to work so hard on um, getting an army that they love on the table, only to have it do nothing. Like, the last thing you want to do is put your heart and soul into something, only to get completely trounced later. That's not good for anybody. That's not fun for anybody. Um, but in narrative, it's supposed to be there, and so you have a little bit more of a wiggle room to you have a little bit more of a wiggle room to kind of go over those things. And if there's no balance, you're going to have that sort of thing where people are putting together armies, going to a narrative event, or even just hanging out with their friends, and just their friends are playing par things, like not even amazing things, just things that are par for the course. And what happens there is um, they never get to use the stuff they like. So if they know up front what they can and can't use, then that helps things a lot. But then on top of that, you have the issues where if there's no balance, again, you're going to fall in love with a unit that's completely terrible. Like, there's no world where it's going to be fun where if your one friend loves pink horrors and you're in love with vanquishers, like, that's not going to be a good matchup. Sure, you can ask your friend to tone it down a little bit, or not take that. Um, but then your friend doesn't get to play the rule of cool. They have to play the rule of, my friend's not good at this game, so I have to tone back so they can play. Because that's fun. That's what we all really strive for, is hey, I don't want my friends to play what they like, because I want to play what I like. That's not good. Um, so when it comes to that, like I said, I mean, it's you have to have some balance. You have to have something. Again, um, going off of their own statistics, where they show that they show Beasts of Chaos are currently at the top, and the Gloomspite Gits are at the bottom. Okay, you have a thing there where that could happen, where you could actually have um, the Gloomspite Gits and the Beasts of Chaos actually have a half decent game there. But overall, like, if you look at the next one, I don't remember where Zinch was, but there's no way Gits are going to beat Zinch. They might overwhelm them, but and again, if you take someone that knows how to play that army, if you take the best player from the top tier army and the best Gits player, the Gits player is going to lose 8 out of 10 games. So it's I'm glad to see that they kind of apologized and took ownership on it, but at the same time, not to be too harsh, but Blizzard did the same thing 3 times in a row, um, with variable issues that I won't get into, and it gets to the point where your apologies don't mean anything. and it gets to the point where you have to start taking things seriously. And I just want to see them get to that point. I I don't know if it's true about the 40K playtesting thing being ended, and that might be a contributing factor, or again, even if it's a contributing factor here, the fact of the matter is we had issues like this in the past when the playtesters were still around. So it's, to me, it doesn't even matter one way or the other. It's simply the fact of the matter is that I think there's a core principle in design that GW is just overlooking, and it's be prepared to kill your darlings, where you might go into something with an idea in mind about, this is what I really love about this unit, this war scroll, this battle plan, or whatever. But at the end of the day, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And so you have to just get away from it. And they just don't seem to do that. Like, again, that Magna Rail. Why would you put that in a book? Same thing, like, the grudges are, again, very strong. And I think there's a world where it can work, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a spit polish fix for it. I think it's a rework, and I guess we'll see that in 10th edition, which I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, so as far as that goes, I'm still going to play Votann. I'm glad they did come out with some of this stuff early. Like we knew it was coming, so I was actually holding off building stuff, and so then I was waiting for something to update. Thankfully, Battlescribe updated, and I switched the weapon loadout for the Hearthguard. Instead of taking a Magna Rail, I'm taking the missile launcher and the High-Las, which is technically saving me 5 points. But the other issue that I forgot to touch on, because I was being attacked by 100 Skaven there, prior to the nerf, on the Votann Reddit, the Votann Discord, and the Votann Facebook page, everyone was going all over the place for the different leagues. And yeah, I would have eventually pared down to one or two, depending on how they turned out at the tournament. But it showed that there was gas in the tank for multiple builds. Now you've gotten to the point where the essentially they raise the points on the shooting guys. I'll just pull up the battle tome or the codex real quick here. So you raise the number, or you raise the points on everything across the board, including things that there shouldn't have been. So, like, if you look at where are they? Yeah, Thunderkin. So the Thunderkin were already overpriced, so their price should have came down a lot instead of going up more. So that's a useless thing. So anyone that says, like, oh, they make these things so they sell models, which, if you honestly think that GW makes rules to sell models, you are beyond help. This was terrible from the get-go, and, like, as soon as they revealed it, everyone's like, well, not buying that. So yeah. And so then there was the other one, the Hearthguard, Einherjar Hearthguard. Those are the exosuit Terminator guys. Well, so they were right on the brink before, because their shooting's not super good, their melee's not really good. The only thing they really had was the simple fact that they could do some teleporting shenanigans, and they were pretty defensive. But now that their points are so much higher than they ever should be, you're probably never going to see these either. And same thing with the Berserkers, the shirtless guys with the flaming axes or the hammers. They've also been pushed to the point where you might see them on the table just to get some melee in the army. But now what you've done is you've pared the army already down to essentially one league is good, one list is good, and that's a spam list, because that's what's really fun in a game, when you take all of one thing to make your army tick. Great job on that. Thanks. Appreciate it. I that's definitely not where you want to be with these games, especially considering even before they even come out. So, yeah, like I said, so back to wrapping it up here. When it comes to game balance, you need to find a place in the middle. You cannot be super stringent to the point where we're playing just chess and everyone's doing the exact same thing and we're just using different models. And then you also can't get to the point where you just let them write whatever the hell they want and then you just work around it. That's whenever you get, horrible things that we've had in the past where people basically stop playing the game for a while until something changes. That's the last place you want to be at as well. Um, Again, I even think having any army be able to beat any other army is a bit of a stretch. Um, but I would say, like, if you can get like a 5 out of 5, 5 out of 10 games, 5 out of 10 games, or even 4 out of 10 games with a little bit of luck, the best versus or the worst versus the best, you're in the right direction. You're in a good place. Um, but like, you got to be even handed. I mean, if you look at the 40k meta, which again I know we're primarily AOS, but it's relevant to both. You have issues still with like the Tyranid. Like, there's still issues with that book that haven't been addressed, haven't been nerfed, haven't been pushed down, and that book's been out for a couple months now. So it is what it is. Again, I hope that we start seeing some changes. There's some rumblings that they're trying to change things, and they're trying to, that they are trying to take things a little more seriously. And I hope it's true. I hope we do start seeing them take things a little more seriously, and I'd be the first to back them for it. And um, I guess the last thing that we'll talk about here, now I'm pushing on to that. It's fine to criticize whenever someone does something wrong, but whenever they do something right, I know I said do. I'm sorry. Get your snickering. Okay, done snickering. Whenever they do something right, it does need to be acknowledged and it does need to be praised. And so we just need to keep a lookout on those, because hopefully something will come forth. Like, who knows, maybe there will be some good Lumineth changes, or who knows, maybe the Sun's book will be better, or who knows, maybe the next General's Handbook's really going to be the one to seal the deal. We'll see. All right, well, we're still going to have our normal episode in a month. We actually, I was trying to have Chuck start doing these, the Big M Power Hours, the first Monday of the month. That just means that Cole and I are probably going to record a month ahead of time, or not a month, a week ahead of time. So we'll probably miss out on a rumor engine or something. But Chuck must have missed the line where I said, hey, don't upload till Monday, because he uploaded it on Friday. So I hope you enjoyed that episode. Again, if you want to make sure to leave any comments or anything, if there's anything super pertinent, I'll try and answer in the comments. And then if there's anything that's really conversation driving, we'll definitely bring it up in the episode to go over a little bit in more depth. So, all right, well, thanks everyone for listening, and have a good week. Okay, have a good month. Sorry, bye.